Hello friends and welcome back to Picture Astrology. In this quick snap video, we will learn about the important effects of placement of Saturn in the sign of Gemini for an Aries Ascendant horoscope. So when Aries, the very first sign of the zodiac, is rising in a chart, sign Gemini falls in the third house. So this video is also about placement of Saturn in the third house for a Aries Ascendant horoscope. So when we have an Aries Ascendant horoscope, that means the sign of Aries is rising in the first house, then Saturn becomes the lord of 10th and 11th houses, because 10th and 11th falls under Capricorn and Aquarius sign respectively, which are owned by Saturn himself. And since Saturn is placed in the third house of Gemini sign, therefore third house, 10th house and 11th house will feel a direct impact of this position. And now in Vedic astrology there are some special aspects which are assigned to every planet, and Saturn aspects third house from its position, which in this case will be fifth house. Saturn aspects seventh house from its own position, which in this case will be the ninth house, and Saturn aspect 10th house from its own position, which in this case will be the house number 12. So you see there are at least 6 houses which this placement of Saturn is going to have a direct impact about. And not just this, Saturn has some natural significations, like Saturn indicates your work life. Saturn is one of the primary planet which indicates the kind of work you are going to do. It shows your karma, especially the karma which you must pay off in this life. Or in other words, Saturn shows areas of life on which you must work hard in order to get some benefits. Like Jupiter represents areas of your life which comes very easy for you. Similarly, Saturn is the exact opposite of that, in a sense that it shows the things or areas for which the hard work is a necessary condition. So this one placement of Saturn actually impacts so many different areas of a horoscope, and a lot can be understood about each of these areas, each of these houses, if we pay careful attention to this placement of Saturn here. Now in next few minutes, however, we will try to understand some of the most practical and most important effects of this Saturn, and as always we will try to be very specific in our analysis so that you can gain some practical insights into this placement of Saturn, and this video just doesn't remain a nice juggle of words. So let's start and understand some of the top few practical and specific implications of Saturn's placement in the sign of Gemini for Aries Ascendant. So let's begin with the third house related matters. And one of the first thing which Vedic astrology tells us is that third house is the house of courage, which basically means that it is the house which shows what kind of initiatives you take in life. Are you a go-getter? Are you someone who would jump into action immediately? All these are shown by the third house, and since it is the Aries Ascendant, and Aries is known to be one of the most fiery and active ascendant, and as you know, ascendant has one of the most important effect in deciding a person's character. So being the Aries rising sign, generally Aries folks are very quick to take action. However, since Saturn is in the house of courage or initiative taking, and Saturn is in a dual sign, the sign of Gemini is actually a dual sign which has both the tendencies, meaning sometimes it is very decisive and sometimes it is actually very slow or full of inertia. So what this Saturn basically means in the third house is that people with this placement take their time before they start anything, before they take charge of the situation. So it is actually a little bit opposite to what is the basic characteristic of Aries natives, and this can actually make or provide a much needed check for the Aries native. As I said, Aries people are really active by nature, and Saturn here actually makes them think twice and thrice. So just if you talk about this placement of Saturn alone, you would find that the people, they're not very decisive, they take their time, but when it is coupled with the ascendant sign of Aries, it is actually in not a bad position because it is forcing you to think before you act. Now, third house is also the house which shows your basic creativity and learning abilities. It is the house where the thought process actually begins. And when we have Saturn in a very agile mercurial sign of Gemini, what it shows is that the person can have good mathematical skills provided Mercury is well placed. So if Mercury is good in the chart, either in the third house itself or somewhere in the cardinal houses, then this Saturn invariably provides the perseverance and mental capability for the person to do well in mathematical subject or any discipline related to that. Now, third house is also the house of short travels. It sometimes shows travels which are within 2 to 5 hours from your place of stay. And since again it is a dual sign, it shows going to travel and then coming back home. So the Saturn with this placement shows many short travels for both work as well as pleasure, because Saturn is lord of 10th house of work and 11th house of friends and social circles. And in fact, many times the first job the people with this placement do involves invariably lots of short travels, and they usually do well in anything related to travels or work related to travels. And the reason for that is Saturn is placed in the third house of short travels, and at the same time it aspects 9th house, which also shows long travels, along with 12th house, and both of these 9th and 12th house are related to travel, and those travels are even longer than the short travels suggested by the third house. And since it is the lord of 10th house of work, in one way or the other, travel and communicating with long distance is always part of the successful career choices which people with this placement makes. Now this Saturn also shows that people who have this placement, they generally are never satisfied with just one kind of work. They want to do multiple businesses. And the reason for that generally is that Mars is the lord of Aries, and Mars is full of lot of energy. Martian sign, especially the sign of Aries, has a lot of energy and very less patience. So that makes them easily bored with one kind of work. But because Saturn provides the necessary perseverance, and it is also in the dual sign of Gemini, which shows versatility, which shows more than one actions at a time. So what this gives is a tendency to get involved in more than one kind of work, and energy, and at the same time perseverance and patience to continue those different and sometimes even diverse aspects of work and business. And since Saturn is the lord of 10th house, which is the house of your work, anything related to the karkas of Saturn like iron or old stuff, old things, old arts and crafts or paintings, antique things, and if Mercury is well placed, then anything related to communication and long distance travel, those kind of businesses are generally very fruitful for this placement of Saturn. So friends, these are the top 5 very specific interpretations or results which you can easily predict when you have Saturn in the 3rd house for Aries Ascendant, that means in the sign of Gemini. If we really go into details, as I stated in the beginning, we can understand a lot more things related to all these areas or houses of the horoscope. But going into those details is going to take a lot of time, but I will try to capture these in a detailed video which will come hopefully soon. Meanwhile, I hope you liked my analysis and this would have helped you in understanding the placement of Saturn in the 3rd house for Aries Ascendant. Please do like and subscribe to my channel to continue to receive more updates like this. I really appreciate your time and you being with me so far. So thank you so much for that and hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.